We're going to be talking about energy, and this is Michigan Farm Bureau Hitching Post. I am the Associate Policy and Regulatory Specialist in the Ag Ecology Department at Michigan Farm Bureau, and I am very excited to now be able to be heard and to moderate tonight's discussion. I am joined by Charles Gould from MSU Extension, Nathan Clarke, a Midland County farmer, and Jim Reid, a St. Clair County farmer, and potentially by my cat who is hovering. So if this is your first time with us, welcome. Hitching Post is an opportunity to dive deeper into agricultural issues and allow County Farm Bureau members to explore how to influence growth and success within the food and farm sector, all through our organization's grassroots policy. If you have any questions or want to tell me if you can't hear me again, please put those into the Q&A box and we will try our best to get those into the conversation. We are recording today's Hitching Post, so if you want to go back and rewatch or share this video with others, the links will be available by this coming Thursday on both the Michigan Farm Bureau Facebook page and on our Farm Bureau YouTube page. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Jim, Nate, and Charles, I'll let you go around the virtual table and introduce yourselves, and then we'll jump into questions. Jim, do you want to go first and introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Jim Reid. I'm a dairy farmer from St. Clair County, Michigan. We milk about 240 cows, and we operate about 1,000 acres. My farm's located about 15 miles north of Port Huron, and I'm about 4 miles inland from Lake Huron. Been farming. Our farm has been in the family for over 150 years. So we've been around a lot. We've been in agriculture that long. The dairy, probably about the 1930s or 40s that we started shipping milk, according to my dad. So
wow.
So we've been around for a while.
Very cool. Thanks for joining us here tonight. Nate, do you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Nathan Clarke. I'm from Midland County. We farm, my dad, my brother, and I farm about 2,000 acres, cash crop, corn, soybeans, black beans, and pickles. We also have a bean processing facility. We process our black beans here, ship them out to canners all over the U.S. Off our farm. And we're also a centennial farm. My great-great-grandpa bought this place in 1886. So
wow,
that's where we're at.
Very cool. Charles, you want to wrap us up for introductions?
So is it my turn, Tess?
Yes.
Okay, my internet, I just noticed came up and said it was unstable. So, hey, this is really going to be an adventure for sure. Well, my name is Charles Gould, and I'm with Michigan State University Extension.
Oh boy.
Housed in Ottawa County, is on renewable energy and energy conservation. And but I've spent a lot of my career working on manure management issues, and so the bridge between manure management and renewable energy was anaerobic digestion. And because of the work that I had done there, I was moved to this focus area, and so that has since expanded out into solar energy, and right now one of my focus areas is agrivoltaics, which is trying to put the raising of livestock and crops with producing solar energy.
Awesome. Thanks, Charles, and love the digesters. So I'll definitely look forward to hearing some questions about that. So the first question we have is for Nate and Jim. And Nate, I'll let you go first on this one, but can you tell us a little about what kind of projects you've incorporated onto your farms, and whether that's energy efficiency, renewable energy, both, one or the other? Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So we've got, when we think about energy efficiency, we've got a couple of variable frequency drives on some motors around here. Those are good way to utilize your energy, the best. We've had those around for a few years. We had an energy audit done probably been a year ago now, and helped us identify some of our places where we had room for growth and efficiency. And so we put in a lot of LED lights. That was probably our biggest, easily our fastest payback was LED lighting. And we've got some more to do. We've got our main shop is LED. We've got some outdoor lighting that we have the LED lighting ordered for, and some of our outbuildings we have yet to make that step yet, but that's where we're headed. And the LED lighting, like I said, I think it was maybe a 4-year payback. And that's hours that we use. The lights are on the most. We have a corn dryer here and aeration fans and all that stuff, but the total hours a year it doesn't add up that much. So those things, the energy audit really made it interesting to see how long it would take for all the different things to pay. But our big project was this fall. We put in, there's actually 6 different solar systems that we put in. We got one on our main farm here that's it's 84 375 watt panels. It's a 3-phase system, about 30,000 watt system. And then we put in 5 on the houses around. My dad, my brother, and I, my sister, and a friend of ours all together went together and bought our systems from the same company so we could negotiate for a better rate. So that was our big project. We put in it was about 69,000 watts total of generation. So that was a big project this fall.
Very cool. It's definitely amazing. As you can see, my cat has joined us. It's very cool to see the energy. I always find energy data so interesting on what it can tell you and what it can show you. And sounds like a great, start to finish, or maybe not finish yet, that you got going there. Jim, do you want to share your experience with me?
Sure. Yeah. Well, Nate had a good comment there. The energy audit is really kind of the first step any farm should take, because that really you're able to discover any weaknesses that you have in the system. Where you can make improvements, where you can install whatever it takes to reduce your electrical use, and that's what and I wanted to mention, I told you I'm a dairy farm, so most co-ops will provide energy audits through their member services. And I believe you can also get some cost sharing through the NRCS. So, there's a cost to it, because they kind of have to, kind of study what you're doing and make suggestions on how you can, improve. So that would be the first step. We were one of the early adopters of solar. We put ours up in 2010. I think probably for a few weeks, we were probably the largest one in Michigan, which in today's world isn't very big, but the DTE Energy had a program that came out right about that time. It's called Solar Currents. And there was a lot of incentives available. So, that interests me. And I always kind of, as a farmer, I think all of us are looking for efficiencies, and saving energy for not only ourselves, but maybe for in the larger scheme of things, So we looked into it, and we were able to, it was a pretty good program. In fact, I think today, the program isn't as good as it was back then. They tell me that you were lucky to get in when you did, because it's not quite as lucrative today as it was then. But they had a limit on 20K, I think it was, that we could take advantage of. So we put 96 panels up, which brought us just under the 20K, and that like I say, I went that way because solar panels really very little maintenance to them. There is no moving parts. I thought this would be a good long-term thing. And only now we're going to do some maintenance on it this summer because, you know, there's some bird droppings that get collected up in there, and, you know, there's some maybe some loose wires, things like that. So we're going to do our first maintenance this year. I'm going to have the company come out. But we had, because we took advantage of everything, including the REAP program, REAP through USDA, I believe that's still available. It brought our costs down, so we could get our return on investment in about 5 years. We're seeing about a 20% reduction in our energy use since it came online. You know, that's the average for the year, because there's some months in the middle of winter where it doesn't generate much because they will get snow covered or cloudy all day. Even on a cloudy day, we will get some generation. And we also have a net metering program. We've had that prior to that, so that's part of it. I'm sorry, the net metering was part of it when we installed it. I meant to say we have a time of day program that we had prior to that. So we're taking advantage of just about every electrical program that they had available through DTE. And so far we've been happy with it.
Yeah, awesome. That's definitely along with, you know, talking about REAP and your other incentives, seeing if your utility also has any other incentives, either for energy efficiency, because that's kind of like what Nate said, that's an easy one to kind of start off with. Talking to your utility about other incentives they might have is also a great option. So, Charles, since you're a little bit of a different background, my question for you is where does someone start? So I know Nate and Jim mentioned these energy audits. I mean, maybe folks are like me and get really excited about hearing about Nate and Jim's projects. So what should folks start with in the beginning, and what should they tackle first?
Well, I would absolutely agree with what Jim said. You start with an energy audit first. One of the reasons you do an energy audit is because you don't want to be producing electricity and then wasting it with equipment that is not efficient. So you replace that inefficient equipment, and then there's plenty of sources for financial help out there. REAP's been mentioned. The Natural Resources Conservation Service has been mentioned. The utilities, if you're a consumer's energy or a DTE customer, the cooperatives, they all have programs that can provide rebates for equipment. Nate mentioned VFD drives, that and lights. I mean, there's a ton of things. You can go to their websites. You can download their booklet there, and you can look through. I'm most familiar with the Consumer's Energy program, being here on the west side of the state. Dwayne Watson is one of the technicians that is contracted by Consumers Energy to come out and do these energy audits and you know, implement Consumers Energy's rebate program. The nice thing about it is you can double and sometimes triple dip. So, you know, the utilities can be stacked. What the utility rebates are can be stacked on top of Natural Resources Conservation Service, or it can be stacked on a REAP program project. So, you know, just utilize those dollars, and you know, we really want to see them used up every year. So that's where I would start, absolutely, with an energy audit. And just the other thing I would mention is there's what's called the Michigan Farm Energy Program. That is Michigan Agriculture Energy Program, and they are responsible for training agricultural energy auditors. And these are individuals that are specifically trained to go to a dairy or to a poultry facility, whatever type of livestock or crop there is. They're specifically trained to do that. You can't send an auditor to a dairy operation and, you know, get the same kind of audit, quality of audit without some training. So these individuals go through, they're certified to do dairy audits or poultry audits or hog swine audits. And that's really the kind of audit you want to have, is, individuals that are certified to do those kind of audits.
Yeah, great point, Charles. And I think that the point about being able to layer things maybe from the utilities or maybe with something from the Natural Resource Conservation Service, I think that's a great point and a great opportunity. Back to Jim and Nate. So you guys touched on some of your payback times and things like that, but really, what really motivated you to kind of start this process, as you will, through energy efficiency to solar and things like that? So Jim, since you're unmuted, I'll let you kick off and then I'll turn it over to Nate.
Well, money usually motivates all of us, or the savings of it. I wanted to add a little bit to, the solar was just one of a few things. The energy audit, well, let me back up a little bit. We did a expansion here right about 2008. So we put all these panels on, we built a freestall barn for our dairy cows. Mm-hmm. And the orientation of it, the roof was facing to the south, so it was a perfect spot to mount all these panels on, and
gotcha.
So part of that expansion was a comprehensive nutrient management plan that we filled out, which I'm sure Charles is well aware of. So we did that. We took advantage of some other programs. We have some of this is specific to dairy, but the variable speed vacuum pump was a huge savings on our energy. Just like Nate said on the fans and stuff. This, of course, our vacuum pump is running probably 8 to 12 hours a day, every day. So that saved us a lot. We part of the CNMP was reusing our water. We reuse our water a couple of times, not only for cooling the milk, but also for either cleaning or sending it out for the cows to drink. They really enjoy that warm water in the winter, so mm-hmm. that was an advantage, reusing that. We the other thing that was kind of cool, well, we put LED lighting in every place, and just like Nate said, that showed up as a savings. But I want to mention, and this is, is how we do our hot water system tests and the audits. We put in a outdoor wood burning stove, which you see a lot of farmers have them. But we put a lot. We have a wood lot, and we have plenty of wood. The ash is all over the place in these woods now. You can't hardly keep up with it. So and it's a little physical work, but we collect that, cut it. We use the wood stove not only to heat the house, but we send it out to the milk house, and it heats the parlor and the milk room, but it also heats the hot water that we use in our, for cleaning. And if the dairymen out there know that in order to do a proper cleaning of the stainless steel that we all have, it has to be very hot water. So I had an instantaneous heater put in to boost the hot water. The hot water that comes out of the wood stove is 155 degrees. We need over 180 degrees to wash everything. So I don't know if I can get any more efficient in producing hot water than what we're doing right now, to get it that hot. But that was obviously an energy savings. We have propane here, which is kind of costly. It's not like natural gas, and so that saved us some energy costs there. So I guess your question, we've done a lot of stuff here, and it mainly was to save us cost on our energy, to be more efficient.
Yeah, and that's a great story to see how that that journey all the different things you do can save those costs. Nate?
Yeah, so we'll start with our LED lighting. So we spend all winter in the shop. We A lot of people ask what a cash crop farmer does in the wintertime. When we're tinkerers, we like to build. I'm not much for turning a wrench, but I'm a fabricator. So we spend a lot of time, we build our own pickle harvesters and we do a lot of that kind of work. So we spend a lot of time in the shop, and the lights are on a lot. And over time, so we had T8 4-foot fluorescent lamps in our shop, like a lot of people do. And over time they get weak, and it was usable light, but we were ready for an upgrade. And so we said, you know, we should really probably think about switching over to LED when we switch. And went to Standard Electric and just said, hey, you know, we're looking for some LED lamps, you know, just a T8 replacement lamp. And they said, oh, well, here, fill this out. You know, consumers running a program on that. So, you know, we ended up only paying about half price
Wow.
for our T8 replacement lamps. So those kind of programs make it pretty hard to not look at switching to LEDs. The light is brighter, you know, it's a colder color. So for maybe a lot of people don't pay attention to it, but there's always a color rating on those lamps. So I like, in a shop, I like a 6000K or 6500K lamp. They're really white, intense light, and they're brighter. The LEDs are brighter, more lumens, and a colder temperature than what we had for fluorescent. So it's a better light for working in. I would gladly have paid the full amount after having the shop the way it is now. You know, it would have been, I think, $500 to relamp our shop. So not a ridiculous sum of money, but consumers stepped in and paid for half. So I'll take advantage of that. But our solar is our big one, right? So we started out, you know, everybody's been seeing ads around, especially if you're on Facebook. I'm sure you've been bombarded with all the ads, $0 out of pocket, right? And basically what those companies do is they come in, they finance the project, and it locks in your rate, whatever you're paying per month for a rate now. You pay that to them, and they size the system to, you know, hopefully you're gonna make 95% of your annual usage. So then they're getting paid over time rather than you paying the power company. So those are typically about a 20-year payback, 20, maybe 22. So it's not a savings for a long time, but it does lock in your rates. You know, I don't think any of us think that our rates are going to go down, so it does lock in your rate. So I don't think it's a bad thing for a homeowner to look at that. And we had one, we actually had two different companies out and look at what we had for multiple homes and plus the farm. And the one at my house, we have a small beef cattle herd at our house. So mine is about twice as big as a normal residential size unit. So we got looking at that, and I told my brother, and I right out of high school, I worked for an electrician for 3 years, and I'm not scared of tackling a project like that. And I said, you know, I think we can do it cheaper. I think if we just go buy components and put it in ourselves, I think we can do it cheaper. And it was about a third, maybe 40% of the cost. So we averaged out all of our, at the end, we had some out-of-pocket stuff that we did wire and some conduit and things like that. The bulk, the inverters, the racking, the panels, we were at $1.17 a watt. So and that's pretty cheap. That, I mean, you can't do much better than that. So I'm sure if you were putting in 40 acres of them, you could probably do better, but I felt that was pretty good. So yeah. We got that put in, and we're looking at probably somewhere around 4.5 years. We'll have we'll have the systems paid for. So in my book, that's, I will buy all the ground I can buy, and I don't expect my ground to be paid to pay for itself in 4 years. So, or 4 or 5 years. So I think that's a good, it was just, we can all, it's environmentally, it's a good thing to do, but it has to make dollars and cents, right? So if it doesn't make financial sense, it's hard to get people to adopt it. At a 4.5 to 5 year payback, I think it's a no brainer. So like I said, we did 5 houses and the farm. They literally XPO Logistics pulled in. We set 2 pallets off the back of the truck, unloaded the truck, and put the 2 pallets back in to go to another place. We had basically a full semi load of panels and racking and inverters and all that stuff. So yeah, it was a big project, but it's going to pay. We're seeing right now we're right where we should be. I think all of our systems are sized right. So the vernal equinox was just here, a couple days ago, Saturday. And we're right about even on our, the meter's spinning both directions. When the sun's shining, we're making way more than we're using. But it does, it comes back the other way when the sun's not shining. So we are right about at an even making what we're using. So we should see a lot more in the summertime, and then we'll see, like Jim said, it's not that great in the winter, but we're still making power every day.
Yeah, it's still amazing what you can make even in the sun's not fully shining like you're in Arizona. So one thing we got a question in the from the audience. So what details or things should people consider, and this is for everyone, should folks consider before starting these types of projects? What challenges did you face? So for example, I know one farmers worry about is permitting. Are there any sort of regulatory concerns folks should think about before embarking on the process? So Charles, I'll let you start and then we'll go around the table.
All right, so we're talking about a solar project, right? Or what are we?
Sure, you can. Yeah, I would say whatever you want to touch on. I would lead it to your expertise.
So I would say the first thing that you need to do is the on-ramp, at least from what I've seen, is that a farmer will get a couple of letters in the mail with a lease agreement, with some kind of lease information. And so the first thing that I would do is I'd contact a good lawyer and I'd go talk with your accountant, and then take a very careful look at that agreement and just make sure that it's worded right so that the farmer's not taken advantage of. The average per acre payment for solar projects is about $800 an acre right now. The low is around $500, and the high that I've heard, that I've been told by someone who has reached this figure is $1,200. So for that kind of money, you want to just make sure that whatever you're being given initially is correct. It is in your best interest.
Yeah, and so what's your experience with sort of the on-farm perspective that maybe kind of the solar projects that Nate and Jim have discussed, kind of that on-house, on-farm kind of usage?
Yeah, so that's actually the direction that extension is going. Jim really did hit the sweet spot because that DTE offer is no longer available. So he got in at the right time. He was at the right time at the right place. Utilities are looking for the larger type of projects. The smaller type of projects, take a lot of paperwork and a lot of time, and so they're looking for the larger type of projects where they can take a large amount of acres. It could be from multiple landowners, but in a geographical area that's contiguous to the on-ramp to the grid. So if a farmer is not, in that situation and want to use solar, then, I'd just do the same thing that Nate has done and Jim has done, is look at your farm. Dairy farms are huge consumers of electricity. So, and solar right now is so cheap. To the efficiencies of converting sunlight into energy have improved. China, about 10 years ago, China made it known that they wanted to be the world leaders in producing solar cells, and they have worked on the efficiencies, and those efficiencies have really improved. And so what we're seeing now from Korea, from Canada, from China, are a reflection of that technology, that brain trust that's gone in to be more efficient converters of sunlight into energy. So the issue that I'm struggling with the solar developers is, you'll see over my shoulder that bottom lip. They want to drop that down to 18 inches. That's going to make it really hard to do really anything with agriculture. And the reasoning is that support system, that racking there, costs some money, but used to be that they put concrete around those posts. Well, they don't do that anymore. They just drive the posts down in and put the racking up, around that. So, costs have come down, but yet, they want to drive it down further. And I guess what I would say is that if there's anybody that's part of the audience that is looking at a contract with a solar developer, I mean, I'd hold the line. Especially if you're in a strategic location where they've got an easy on-ramp to the grid, hold your position, because I can tell you that agrivoltaics is going to happen, and we just, we're trying to get that implemented here in Michigan. We're looking for farmer cooperators. We're looking for solar developers who are wanting to do this, and so we can have some sites that we can bring farmers and solar developers out to and say, hey, this is how it works. This is a viable option for our farmers.
Yeah, and just to clarify for those, agrivoltaics is when kind of what you see in Charles's background is when ag and solar kind of work together in that context, and it can be other things. I've seen it in other ways where there's vegetables that need shade that are under there. So that's where agrivoltaics is kind of the trend that is coming into that Charles is working on in Michigan.
So this picture was taken in Lenawee County, and in that same general vicinity is a beef farm. And they have a solar array that's up about 8 feet or so, and they're using it primarily for shade for the beef cattle, but they're producing electricity. And I made a visit out there, and the cattle just they've not knocked it over. That's the one thing about cattle is they like to rub, but they've not knocked it over. So I use that to dispel the myth of we can't put a solar array up because they're going to come and lick it. They're going to knock it over. Well, that's a bunch of garbage.
They're going to knock it by licking it over. That would be the day. So I'll switch it over. Jim, since you're unmuted, do you want to share kind of challenges or things you'd want to share with folks if they decide to embark on their own journey?
Yeah, I have a couple things I wanted to add, Tess, to the Charles's conversation. Well, there's we're talking kind of two different things here. One is, on farm, like Nate and I have, and those work well. I would suggest you check with your electrical supplier, whether it's DTE, consumers, or whoever, because they have to be involved. They're gonna, if they have a metering thing that they, you have to discover what programs they have. You're kind of locked into whoever services your area. The other conversation has to do with large areas, and Charles must have heard. We've had some things up here, and especially in St. Clair County, that where they where they wanted to put in large arrays. And in one particular case, they had, gosh, must have had close to 1,000 acres that they wanted to put solar panels on. And they did. I mean, the landowner, it was predominantly one landowner. And, everybody was great until they came to the township board. They don't realize that there's a couple of steps that have to be made, with the township. The township has to approve of it. Is it zoned properly? And in this case, in our township, there was a lot of opposition to it because of, disrupting farmland. These are usually a minimum of 20-year arrangements. And, of course, at the end of 20 years, if everything's working well, they will probably extend them, which, is fine. But you've taken, in this case, 1,000 acres of, this was high quality farmland out of production, so a lot of people didn't like that. And then part of the discussion too was PA 116, is solar panels allowed on it? Maybe Charles could answer that question. I checked into that when we were, talking about this particular one, and I didn't really get a clear answer. I guess there's ways of getting out of it, but it's another bump in the road, a process that has to take place before you start putting these things up. And we have some activity going on currently with another, I think it's a different company, looking at putting in some large arrays on a couple hundred acres near me, and it's right near a substation. So Charles was right. They picked places where they can access power, either power lines or substations, to get the power where it can be dispersed.
So Tess, before Nate gets on, can I answer Jim's question about PA 116?
Sure.
All right. So the way PA 116 works is if you have a contract with them, the length of time that your solar lease agreement is tacked on to your PA 116. So you don't get out of it. It's just deferred.
I see.
So you can put solar projects on PA 116 land with the understanding that, it's rolled over and tacked on at the end.
Okay.
It's sort of like hitting the pause button on your PA 116, right? For the time that the solar panels are there, you're wherever you stopped, it starts back up again once the solar panels are there.
Yep. Great analogy, Nate. And so Nate, we'll let you wrap it up with kind of your lessons learned and any challenges you'd want to share with the group online.
Yeah, the reason we even were interested in tackling the project of solar, there's a lot of paperwork that goes into, for us, we're Consumers Energy customers here. So the net metering process with Consumers Energy is not something that I would say is easy. It's not difficult once you've been through it. But figuring it out was a challenge.
So are you offering to tutor people? Is that what you're saying?
I believe in it. I believe in it, and I would, if somebody had a question, I would be glad to help. But actually, I don't know how much help I'd be. My sister ended up doing most of it. She works at Dow, and she said, "Hey, if you guys are doing it, it makes sense, right?" And we said, "Yeah, this we expect it to pay in 4 or 5 years." And she said, "All right, I want to do it too." So I've got, at the farm here, we've got a telehandler. We all aren't afraid to walk on roofs. So we had the ability to take a semi load of panels in and unload them and get them up on the roof. And my sister handled the paperwork because that's what she does. And our friend that was in on this with us, he's a techie guy, and so he came in, and there's some setup to the inverters. Somebody's got to come, he's plugged his laptop in and got them configured to make it work right. And so it worked really well for us. We had a pretty complete team. Mm-hmm. So that would be the thing that I think would be, and we learned some lessons the hard way. And the company that we bought from was specializes in do-it-yourself solar installation. So they were theoretically going to walk us through the things that we didn't know, right? Because you can always ask questions when you know what you don't know. When you don't know that you don't know something. So there was some things like, so all of the DC wiring, so photovoltaic solar panels provide DC current, and that comes into an inverter and gets changed to AC. So any DC wiring has to be in metal conduit on a photovoltaic system. So we didn't know that until we had it done. So those were some of the things that we ran into that we were a little disappointed in our service that we got from the company we bought from. That could have went better. And like I say, the paperwork with consumers, there were some things, where maybe you didn't understand the question they were asking because it's not something you do every day. Mm-hmm. But because we were doing 6 systems, it was worth the work of learning it. To do it for one, it would have probably, you probably would have been pulling your hair out saying, why am I doing this for one system? So that was probably the big thing. One of the things I would say that we haven't really touched on is, there's still a 26% income tax credit for renewable energy. Mm-hmm. So, I'm the kind of person that I would rather have equipment in the shed than let the federal government have it. So I'm not a big fan of paying taxes. So that was a big portion of it for us, was the tax credit. That's 26%. When you start taking that, the REAP program was another 25%. We didn't participate in the REAP program. I think it would have been good. We probably should have, but when you apply for it, it's not a guaranteed thing. And we were going to hire someone to go through the application for us. And when we were looking at the cost of the application and what we were going to save on the project, the difference wasn't really enough to where, if it wasn't 100% guaranteed, mm-hmm. then it really didn't justify the cost for us. But that, if you are fairly certain that you're going to get that gets you to 51% just in your income tax credit and the REAP program. So 51% of your system paid for by somebody else, that makes it a pretty easy decision, especially if you're going to do very much at all and you can get some negotiating power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, go ahead, Charles.
Well, Tess, 2 quick thoughts here that both Nate and Jim prompted me. I am asked all the time, well, how do I know how can I find a reputable solar contractor? Okay, a solar developer. And what I would suggest is you go to Michigan Saves. Just Google Michigan Saves, and they have a list of contractors that are vetted. Because Michigan Saves is a way to fund solar projects. So they have solar developers that they've vetted. In fact, they've got the whole thing. So go to Michigan Saves, look on that website, and you can find solar contractors that service your area. The second thing that I would say is there's a lot of motivations for putting solar projects in. And one of the motivations that really resonated with me was a farmer told me the reason that he's putting a solar project in is because that allows him, after 20 years, to be able to go organic, and that's what he wanted to do.
Yeah, so thanks for that. Thanks for the resource trials and that additional context. And so I think that one of the things I took away from you all is finding something that fits for you all, because I mean, you all kind of went around and did it a different way. And so I think finding, kind of perusing your options and finding the best fit is kind of one of the morals I picked up from all of your guys' experiences. So we're going to wrap up. Thank you so much to Nate, Jim, and Charles for taking the time to be here with us tonight. You all have so much great knowledge and provided a lot of great insight. For all those listening, thank you for joining us here tonight on Zoom and Facebook Live. Remember, a video of tonight's event will be up on our Facebook page by this Thursday, so feel free to share as you will. And while you're on the Facebook page, you can watch all of the previous hitching post sessions. This started last year, so there's a lot of great content out there if you want to go look at that. And one last note, we would love your feedback, so make sure to fill out the quick survey after you leave the event. You'll also be directed to our public policy website. This is a great place to catch the latest regarding policy and politics in agriculture. You will find here MFB's and American Farm Bureau's policy books. So you'll see the current policy for both of those organizations and a links to your county farm bureau to connect with those issues locally. So thank you again for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your evening.